Morning. I've been absent for a while because the computer just stopped working. Like, it wouldn't record videos. The computer was working fine. Everything was fine, except for it wouldn't record videos. It wouldn't save it. Like, the camera's fine, but it wouldn't save it onto my computer. And so eventually I got onto Microsoft Help and got on live chat, and took days to sort it out. It was amazing. And I've had to create a new user account and stuff. And then I'll transfer them over to the other. Anyway, at least it's fixed. Oh, I did my 5-minute walk. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. No, okay, carry on. Right, where we're up to with Power of Now, I've got to look underneath, haven't I? Forgotten how to do it. Is emotion, body's reaction to the mind. I've got to look underneath, haven't I? Oh yeah, there it is. Emotion, body's reaction to the mind. Okay, here we go. Really important, the emotional stuff. Something that nobody talks about. And it's why I'm leaving a lot of these videos really raw, and I'm not editing out my emotional state. The stuff to do with bunnies and stuff. I've got in here. Because it's like, it's just reminding me that it's a friendly world, so I don't feel so criticised and like I'm going to be attacked or something. Because my housemate had a look at the videos, and he was okay when he looked at them on his own. But I only put one up, first of all, like the last one. Of course, it didn't make sense just to put the last one up. And so I've been trying to learn about editing. That was the only one that was ready and stuff. And then he got his, I don't know if it's his girlfriend or girl he's seeing at the moment, to have a look, and she was like, what is this? It didn't make sense. And 5 minutes after a couple of minutes after I started, I got up to get some water, and it's like, and I immediately clicked out. It's like, it just feels awful. It's like, and I've got that feeling, it's there. Whenever I think about making videos now, that feeling is there. It's crazy. So anyway, and yet before that, I felt like I was talking to my best friends. I mean, the next day when I couldn't make a video, it's like my favourite toy had been taken away. And I had a really lovely, warm feeling about making videos. And when I watch them back, I do like it. I do like that I'm doing this. Strange, even though when I'm not doing it, I feel really like, oh my gosh, should I really be doing this? So vulnerable and stuff. And Tim said I look so vulnerable, and when you were crying, it was really intense. And I was like, oh, shut up. This is me. I'm just so into the emotional stuff that nobody ever talks about. I'm sure it's going to help people because nobody talks about it ever. And it's just such a huge part of everybody's lives. Everybody's lives are run by emotions. And you say, I just feel so strongly about it. Nobody talks about it, let alone tries to help you. Everyone's got to pay for really expensive therapy. Nobody's allowed to talk about that either. It's my stuff. Right, okay. I showed you, didn't I? Emotion. I've got to calm down now. Get some water. Breathe again. Yeah, forgetting to breathe all the time. Sorry about that. Got my best chipped mug. I'll show you. Oh no, it's all around, isn't it? Oh dear. Sorry, I've got you all now. It's really annoying. I haven't learned how to cut bits out. All this fuffling about with drinks of water and stuff. I could do with cutting out, but I will learn how to do it. It just takes time. Okay. God, 4 minutes already. Okay, emotion, the body's reaction to your mind. What about emotions? Oh, this is a questioner now. What about emotions? I get caught up in my emotions more than I do in my head. Mind, the way I use the word, this is Eckhart now, is not just thought. It includes your emotions as well as unconscious mental, emotional, reactive patterns. God, I can't see very I didn't want to put the light on behind me because I tried it earlier and it's quite. You can see like a light up the top. It's a glare. I don't know if it's. I'll go with that. Yes. That's better. At least I can see. It includes the emotions as well as all unconscious mental, emotional, reactive patterns. Emotions. I don't know why I'm having to hold the book right down here as well. No. Well, emotions arise at the place. See, today I was going to be much more professional and get dressed and stuff, and Spirit didn't want me to. It's like I was going to do, a really good walk, and then say, no, you're taking too much time and stuff. So I had to rush back and do it straight away with my hair in a mess and in my pajamas again. It's like, oh, I don't like it. I want to, feel good about myself, better about myself. They like the fact that I'm doing it like this, and it's true. I mean, if I did do all that, probably something else would come up, like some work would come in or something. It would stop me actually doing it. So I think they're right. Anyway. I've got to calm down now. Emotions arise at the place where mind and body meet. It's the body's reaction to the mind, or you might say a reflection of your mind in the body. For example, I'm going to read this bit. Oh, God. An attack thought or a hostile thought will create a build-up of energy in the body that we call anger. The body is getting ready to fight. Oh, I'm not going to read that. Oh, sorry. I'm going to go on to the next bit. I didn't like that part. Right, next part. This is the questioner. He says, you say that an emotion is the mind's reflection in the body. Sometimes there is a conflict between the two. The mind says no, while the emotion says yes, or the other way around. I wish I'd give an example of that, because that's a bit weird. I hope you can understand that. And Eckhart says, if you really want to know your mind, your body will always give you a truthful reflection. So look at the emotion, or rather feel it in your body. If there is an apparent conflict between them, the thought will be the lie, the emotion will be the truth. Not the ultimate truth of who you are, but the relative truth of your state of mind at that time. Conflict between surface thoughts and unconscious mental processes is certainly common. You may not yet be able to bring your unconscious mind activity into awareness as thoughts, but it will always be reflected in the body as an emotion. God, I don't know what's going on today. Trouble seeing. The glasses, I'm going to clean my glasses. It will always be reflected in the body as an emotion, and of this you can become aware. To watch an emotion in this way is basically the same as listening to or watching a thought, which I described earlier, like watching the thinker that I talked about. Oh, I did it this morning. I did my presence thing, and I did a load of vibrating stuff, just reading my notes I've made to myself, that ones that really work for me, and it's so good to get back into that. I stopped doing it, completely stopped doing it, because in the mornings I get up, the time I've faffed about with sorting computers out and stuff, and maybe washed up from the night before if I hadn't done it, and then it was time to go out for that walk. It's 6:30. I've got to go out for that walk, and then as soon as I get back, I've got to make the video. So I hadn't been doing it, and I really missed it. Oh, I really need it. I'm going to start reading those to you because they make all the difference. Or I was thinking I really ought to sell it as an ebook or something, try and make money with it. We'll see. I can give you tasters, can't I? Yeah. Right. Get excited now. Because that's the truth, we're all going around in this labour of, life's so hard, it's this and it's that, but the truth is so different, so different. I'm trying to wink, it doesn't matter. It amazes me how energised and excited I get when I'm doing it. Do you know that? If you really want to know your mind, the body will always give you a truthful reflection. So look at the emotion, or rather feel it. Yeah, I did, didn't I? Conflict. Oh, God, I've done that. To watch an emotion in this way is basically the same as listening to or watching a thought. I said that. The only difference is that while a thought is in your head, an emotion has a strong physical component, and so is primarily felt in the body. You can then allow the emotion to be there without being controlled by it. You no longer are the emotion. You are the watcher, the observing presence. If you practice this, all that is unconscious, you will be God. All that is unconscious in you will be brought into the light of consciousness. And the questioner says, so observing our emotions is as important as observing our thoughts? Eckhart says, yes. Make it a habit to ask yourself, what's going on inside me at this moment? That question will point you in the right direction. But don't analyze, just watch. Focus your attention within. Feel the energy of the emotion. If there is no emotion present, take your attention more deeply into the inner energy field of your body. It is the doorway into being. And there's a squiggle to say pause. Oh, got it underneath. Yeah, it's so easy when I go underneath. I try and go like, what am I showing? Oh yeah, I can sort of do it like that. Okay. Yeah, watching them back, it's like I'm always fiddling with my feet because I get really tense and stuff. I've always been like that. I was round at my friend's place once, and I said to her, I was honest, I said, don't you ever want to like lie down on the floor or just stand up and stretch, bend down and stretch? She said, no. Am I the only one? I always want to stretch and stop and breathe. And the other weird thing I've got is when I'm indoors, I always want to look out the window. I'm a bit panicky, like if I can't see out the window. I don't feel panicky if I can't see out the window. That's an exaggeration, but I love seeing outside, and it's like a lifeline for me. The light outside. Oh, makes me want to cry. Yeah, I've got into some stuff about that. I think I understand where it comes from, but oh man. And people don't like it because I'm around the house and they might be talking to me and I'm like desperate to look out the window. And then I start yawning. Oh my God, yawning is such a pain because people say, am I really that boring? Debbie boring. Boring. I didn't mean to say that. It's like, no, I'm not bored. I'm just struggling to relax and breathe kind of thing. Oh, I want to cry now. This is me. It's been a struggle my whole life, So I'm such a nice person. People think because I don't say stuff. I've never said stuff, ever said stuff. And people think I'm aloof, aloof is the last thing I am. I just want to connect with people and give them attention. It's like the only compliment I've ever had from my parents growing up, right, was that I'm quite attentive to them. Oh my God, like that's actually people pleaser, massive people pleasing. I was attentive and I don't know if you even say caring, but I would add that on. Yeah, attentive, caring person. I am. I love people. I love other people. I love learning about them. I was reading about extroverts and introverts the other day, and an ambivert. Oh, I wasn't reading that. I was watching a stupid Bright Side video. I think it's like, are you an extrovert, introvert, or an ambivert? I think I'm an ambivert because I was told by a psychic that I'm an extrovert, and as soon as I said that, I thought, wow, yeah, maybe I am, because I've been so held back. I've assumed that's introvert. But I do have qualities of both, definitely. I'm a very shy extrovert, held back extrovert. But I can see both sides, definitely. I could talk more about why I can see both sides. I'm so bloody in the middle. A mediator. Like, there's this thing called the Enneagram of Success. A lot of people will have heard about it if you're doing self-development and stuff. And I was the mediator. I could always see both sides of an argument with everyone. And I could so be a mediator. God. And I'd studied law as well. And you'd have to do law to go on to do mediation and stuff. But it's just so expensive to do all that. Massively expensive. And everyone at the time was saying there's no jobs. There's hardly any work in mediation. So you can spend all that money doing that and then you don't get no work. So I want to do things my way anyway. I've got just massive knowledge of all different things, and that's why I've always wanted to do this printed newslettery thing. It's so I can cover everything. I don't want to be stuck in one thing. You know, if you spend all your time training for one thing, that's it. You're not going to get time to do anything else, are you? So, carry on. Sorry about that. Yeah, now I'm like apologising all the time because I've had this criticism. Tim will say, don't spend too long and stuff, whereas I'm naturally, you know, going to talk and stuff. So I hope this is all right. Right, okay. I can't remember what bit I've read now. So absorbing our emotions is oh no, I did the squiggle, yeah, okay. An emotion usually represents an amplified and energized thought pattern. There's a noise now coming in the background. I hope it's not too loud for you. I haven't shut the door today because Tim's not here. I've got the whole flat to myself. It's great. Love it. I can talk louder as well. I don't have to. I was a bit held back at the beginning, like, because he, might be able to hear me talking while he's sleeping. An emotion usually represents an amplified and energized thought pattern, and because of its often overpowering energetic charge, it's not easy initially to stay present, to be able to watch it. It wants to take you over, and it usually succeeds, unless there is enough presence in you. If you are pulled into unconscious identification with the emotion through lack of presence, which is normal, the emotion temporarily becomes you, in quotes. Often a vicious circle builds up between you, your thinking, and the emotion. Your thinking and the emotion. They feed each other. The thought pattern creates a magnified reflection of itself in the form of an emotion. The vibrational frequency of the emotion keeps feeding the original thought pattern. By dwelling mentally on a situation, event, or person that is the perceived cause of the emotion, the thought feeds energy to the emotion, which in turn energizes the thought pattern, and so on. Basically, all emotions are modifications of one primordial undifferentiated emotion that has its origin in the loss of awareness of who you are beyond name and form. He's talking about when we come from, the other side to Earth, we incarnated on Earth, I believe. Because of its undifferentiated nature, it is hard to find a name that precisely describes this emotion. Fear, in quotes, comes close, but apart from a continuous sense of threat, it also includes a deep sense of abandonment. Oh, God, yeah. It's like, I wonder if everyone feels that, because that's one of my most intense emotions is abandonment. Because, I was abandoned by my parents, kind of thing, emotionally, massively. And I've seen other people, because I've been around people in therapy a lot, they go crazy when they feel abandoned. It's the worst thing. It's like, it's worse than actually going to your death. Because I've got this thing where I shouldn't really talk about it, it's so intense. But I'm going to my death. But the worst feeling of all, because I've had dreams where I'm dying, so the worst feeling of all is the abandonment. That's worse than the thought of physically being injured and dying. Well, death is pretty awful, but abandonment's the worst. So I wonder if everyone feels it, because he's talking about this one primordial thing. Like once you're split off from God or whatever in the universe and you come born as a single entity, everyone feels that separation. They're all searching to get back to the source, you see. I wonder if everyone feels abandoned. That makes me feel better. I'm not the only one, sort of thing. But, like I've had it completely overlaid in this reality as well by being actually emotionally abandoned, whereas other people don't, kind of thing. But everyone's got it underneath, maybe. Right, fear comes close. Fear comes close, but apart from a continuous sense of threat, it also includes a deep sense of abandonment and incompleteness. So that's talking about the incompleteness when you want to join together with Source again. It may be best to use a term that is as undifferentiated as that basic emotion and simply call it pain. One of the main tasks of the mind is to fight or remove that emotional pain. That's what we're all doing all the bloody time, trying to get away from pain. Yeah, me too. Run as fast as we can, folks. Which is one of the reasons for the mind's incessant activity. But all it can ever achieve is to cover it up temporarily. In fact, the harder the mind struggles to get rid of pain, the greater the pain. The mind can never find the solution, nor can it afford to allow you to find the solution, because it is itself an intrinsic part of the problem. But now I've got spirit talking in my ear. It's almost as if they say, oh, because it's 20 minutes. Wow, bang on 20 minutes, they said something. This is my incessant, because I want to get to the end of the passage. Wow, this is your incessant activity of your mind talking now. Wow, right, because I want it to be, because I read this stuff, and I wanted to go way further on in this and talk about the pain body, because that's the emotional stuff that I want to get to and talk about. But I thought, oh no, I've got to talk, build up to it, sort of thing. If I just jump straight into that, right? So I'm asking them, can I stop now? And they're like, yeah. I don't want to, but I better, because it puts people off. It does put me off if videos are too long. My heart sinks because I know I won't have time to watch them. So I guess I'll leave it there. But quickly talk about the ending I want to do today. I made up those endings from my sayings and stuff, like, you are powerful and go out and create the life you want and stuff. You can get what you want. But I was watching a video by, I won't explain who it is, but at the end of the video, it's him and his wifey woman. And they said, I love myself. I love myself. Like, it's really cheerful and bright. And it's like, I'm going to adopt that, because that's what, self-love is so important. And whenever we say I love you to someone else, you're really saying it to yourself. I don't know if I can explain that properly at the moment, but that's what it really is. It's I love myself. That's far more important. And it's so confusing about, like, loving other people and loving yourself, and like Neil Donald Walsh says, your life isn't about you, dear. It's about helping other people, or no, the effects you have on others. It's not about helping other people. It's about others' lives you touch, kind of thing, and that effect, kind of thing. It's like, oh, it's so confusing. But yeah, I love myself. I love doing that. Okay, bye for now. See you next time.